From NewscastStudio, the trade publication for television creative professionals, this is the Production Music Podcast, and I'm your host, Dak Dillon. Growing up in the 90s, I wasn't able to experience the pride and passion of Hello, a catchy song that swept over 120 cities around the globe. Now, this wasn't a pop song like you might hear on the radio. It was an image campaign. In fact, it was the most successful in television history, branding stations and newscasts from Milwaukee to Perth, from Toowoomba to Tulsa, from Phoenix to Calgary, where it even became the official town anthem. Image campaigns are nothing new in advertising. They're catchy jingles that television stations, networks, and brands use to remind viewers who they are and what they stand for. For local newscasts, image campaigns are all about community, coverage, and commitment. For me personally, it was all about the world at home, a small image campaign that KOMU 8 News used in Columbia, Missouri. But long before there was The World at Home, before there was Hello, there was Utopia, Lullaby of Love, and Princess, all of which hit the US Top 40 Billboard charts in the early 1960s from an artist by the name of Frank Gari. Frank performed his songs for the nation on shows like The Merv Griffin Show and American Bandstand, but then his life took him down a different path.
This is the News Leader, Channel 7 Eyewitness News, with Bill Buchanan.
From WBBM TV, this is Chicago's News. 2 News at 6.
Channel 4, KMOV TV, St. Louis. Now, the news with Julius Hunter.
In today's Production Music Podcast, we have a conversation with Frank Gari, who's enjoying retirement after a career spanning many decades of composing some of the most well-known news music and image campaigns on the planet. You may not know them by name, but you've likely heard them on your local television station or on national shows and networks, such as ABC's Good Morning America, CBS This Morning, and even HBO. This episode of the Production Music Podcast is brought to you in part by Avid. Expand your possibilities and be ready for your next big move. Join us at this year's Avid Connect event, April 22nd and 23rd in Las Vegas. Now in its 4th year, Avid Connect is the largest gathering of media professionals in the world. It's where you experience the cutting edge and are part of something bigger. Meet industry leaders and network with collaborators. Test new ideas and strengthen skills. Use the power of your participation to expand the possibilities for ourselves and for our industry. Listeners of this podcast receive $100 off the current registration rate with the promo INCAST. That's the letter IN, followed by CAST. The event is expected to sell out again this year, so register now at avidconnect2017.com to avoid disappointment, and we'll see you there. So Frank, how did you get into music in the first place?
Yeah, well, the start of it all. I was born in New York City in 1944. My mother was a classical pianist. There was music playing in the house all day long. My father was a barber and a guitar player. And my sister was a prima ballerina, a wonderful, wonderful dancer. And I was blessed with somewhat of a decent voice. In 1959, while I was still in high school, I started my own band, and we called it Flat Top Frank and the Cool Cats, because my dad, being a barber, gave me a flat top hairdo. Anyway, my father invented the flat top. In those days, it was a very popular haircut. Anyway, fast forward, the band, I formed a band, and this band broke up after a while, and I decided to go it on my own. I really had this burning desire to become a professional rock and roll singer. So with my demo recording in hand, I started making the rounds to the record companies to see if I can get a record contract. Sure enough, I was standing in front of the famous Brill building, which is on 49th Street in Broadway, with my white buck shoes and my white sweater. I really looked the part. By the way, the Brill Building was the home of the most successful record companies at the time. Mm-hmm. Anyway, a record producer came up to me and said, boy, you've really got the look. Can you sing? And I said, you bet I can. So I auditioned for him. He liked what he heard and produced a record with me called Little Girl, which turned out to be a flop. But it was my second record, that really got things going. The song was called Utopia. After performing the record for about 6 months, doing disc jockey record hops, radio interviews, and local TV shows, the record really took off and eventually made it to the top 40 national Billboard charts. I then found myself performing at, larger venues, and worked at the prestigious Empire Room of the Waldorf Astoria with the famous band leader Woody Herman. I did national road tours and lots of personal appearances on the Dick Clark American Bandstand show. My follow-up records to Utopia, Lullaby of Love, Princess, and Beach Ball also became quite successful and made it into the Billboard Top 40 charts. This was all happening during the early 60s. It was, this was really heady stuff for a boy still in his teens,
Describe what it felt like, being able to perform on those shows like American Bandstand and Merv Griffin, those shows that were the icons of the 60s.
It was great. I mean, I had, as a younger, before my record career, I was watching the Dick show and the Dick Clark show, and, and seeing the dances and saying, oh, boy, I really would love to, I know that I can do that. I know I can make it. And it was, extremely exciting. Dick was a fabulous guy. I did the show about 3 or 4 times. It was from Philadelphia, which was a short hop from New York City. And as I said, Dick was great. And it was, it was just a lot of fun and definitely the hot ticket, the hot show at that particular time.
So now you're in Cleveland. How do you come into the world of news music and jingles?
I got a call from the general manager and creative service director at Channel 5, which was the ABC station in Cleveland. And they said, hey, you write all of these, catchy jingles for advertisers. Would you consider writing, one for our television station to promote our news anchor team? And I said, sure, I'll give it a shot. And I created a song called Catch 5 with my partner at the time, Lee Bush, and my very talented friend, Marty Winston.
Looking near and far to get the feel of life, you'll find the world's at hand. You've got to catch 5. Each day's a new world to explore.
It became a huge success, and actually was the first TV image campaign of its kind in broadcasting. The popularity of the song prompted the head of Channel 5 News to commission me to create a news instrumental package utilizing the theme of the Catch 5 jingle. I remember the only thing I had to go on for inspiration was a storyboard and a sketch of a new graphic they were getting ready to do. The original news package, consisted of, about 12 recordings in different styles. One of them was used for the main Channel 5 News open theme, and the other arrangements for various other segments in the program like sports, weather, and traffic. By the way, this is funny. By the way, in those days there were only 3 TV station networks, the ABC, NBC, and CBS networks. Channel 5 was the ABC station, and it was third in the ratings. And because of the popularity of the Catch 5 campaign, it shot to number 1 in the ratings. Shortly after its success, I received a call from the former number 1 NBC station asking if we would write an image song and news package for them. And we did, and it became successful. And also, this is funny, as luck would have it, I received a call from the CBS station asking for the same. And lo and behold, there I was doing all of the 3 networks, ABC, NBC, and CBS. While these themes were gaining popularity in the industry, I remember getting a call from the news director at WABC in New York, and they were using a cut of music off of a record album, as their Eyewitness news theme. The song on the album was from the hit movie Cool Hand Luke. because the recording was of really poor quality and very scratchy, they asked if I would do a fresh, new version with a large orchestra, which we did. And that version, along with hundreds, if not thousands of versions we've done over the years, is still the number one news theme in broadcasting and still being used by most of the ABC stations across the country to promote the Eyewitness news theme. So that's how we kind of got into the news business.
It seems like at about this time in the 70s, there was a large shift starting to happen, because before, a lot of the broadcasters used movie music and these random cuts, and there were a few others like Al Ham and things like that. Then you kind of came onto the scene and showed them that they could have packages with more options, more directions, and something a little more fresh.
Yeah, that's true. They were using basically needle drops, and as you said, record cuts, as their main news open, and they really didn't have that unique identity that I think that when we started, creating original music for them, that started to create a definite image. When you were in the other room, you heard this music playing, and you said, "Oh, yeah, that's the Eyewitness news thing. We got the Eyewitness news is on. We got to go check out the news."
Throughout your career, what do you think set your news music and jingles apart? What gave them their distinct sound and hook?
I think the main difference, is the melodic, catchy and, memorable melodies of our themes. Our orchestrations are rich and full. We use the absolute best arrangers and musicians on the planet. We recorded at the best studios, working with the best engineers that really, really know how to get the best sound out of a live orchestra, which really seems to be a lost art these days. Most of the music you hear on the air today is done electronically with very, very few real musicians, if any. As far as I'm concerned, you can't beat the real thing. However, because of shrinking budgets, the trend of news music these days seems to be going away from larger real sessions to doing most everything electronically. Let's face it, instead of hiring a real orchestra, it's less expensive. I've really been blessed over the years to work with, the very best professionals when it comes to creating our packages.
It seems like today music is going in a vastly different direction than, say, the 80s or 90s, when it was really aggressive and in your face and just full of energy. Today it's a little softer in nature, it's a little more melodic.
Yeah, I think the news themes of the past that we started to create, really had a main theme, and the main theme was, as I said, was the identifiable element to the program. Also, the news opens years ago, were longer. We had a little time to have some development. They were maybe 10, 12, 15, 20 seconds long. Nowadays, they want to get in right away, real fast. So you're talking about, at best, maybe 3 seconds, maybe 5 seconds, and they're into the show. So it's very difficult to, establish a mood feeling. So, what's happening today is, they're using, a kind of a placemat, if you will. And the main thrust is, the breaking news story. So they want to get to it right away, and they're not spending too much time with creating a theme or devoting time to creating a theme.
So looking back at your career, what would you say your favorite package was that you worked on?
Well, I'd say a couple. I'd say the Eyewitness news theme, certainly was up there among my favorite. Also the CBS Enforcer, the CBS News theme. I think it's one of the strongest themes in broadcasting. Ba-da-ba-da-bum, ba-da-da-dum-bum. and that's used by most of the CBS stations across the country, as well as the Hello theme, as well as so many others that we did.
Speaking of Hello, talk a little bit about what inspired this theme. It's still amazing to this day how many markets have used it and how many different versions there are of it.
That was interesting. I received a phone call from my dear friend Jerry Smith. Jerry is the president of Jerry Smith Film and Television, and is really a master when it comes to film and creative ideas. And he was getting ready to do an image campaign for Channel 12 in Milwaukee, WISN. And he asked me to compose a love song to the city of Milwaukee to support the image campaign as part of the efforts of the station to reestablish themselves positively in the community. It was just one of those magical, creative moments. Sat down at the piano and started working on a melody. The lyrics started falling in place, and before you know it, Hello Milwaukee was born.
That you can't get anywhere except Milwaukee. I taste 1,000 yesterdays, and I love the magic ways of Milwaukee. From the shores of Michigan, I can watch you grow again and see you touch the sky. Where the river flows to where the sunset goes.
It's got a very catchy theme, and it's kind of a homespun simplicity, if you will, that made it an instant success among the viewers. It raised awareness, and I know that it raised awareness for the station. In fact, raised ratings in every market that it aired. As you said, Hello, wound up being the most successful image campaign in history, and to date, it's been in, well over 100 markets in the U.S. alone, and quite a few markets worldwide. I also had the opportunity to work with many major recording artists. Donnie, Marie, and the Osmond Family sang a version of Hello Utah. George Jones sang Hello South Texas. Florence Warner performed Hello with the Nashville Symphony Orchestra, and also Michael Bolton did Hello Atlanta. I think the reason that it worked so well, was that it embraced a very simple greeting, a word, hello.
Hello, Dayton. Hello, Dayton. TV2 loves you. Hello, Phoenix. Hello, Arizona. Hello, Utah. Hello, Rochester. Hello, Wichita. Hello, Pittsburgh. Hello, Colorado. Hello, Colorado.
It's got a universal commonality, no matter what language you speak. It allowed the stations, to identify with the community, and the community to identify with the stations. It made a very simple and powerful promise. Makes no difference where I go, you're the best hometown I know. And television conveyed that message. Common goal, people working together, broadcasters in the community saying to each other, we're proud, to call this place our home.
Now, a lot of people don't realize that's actually you singing on the original Hello. How many different versions do you think you actually sang the vocals on?
Yeah, I was the original singer of the Hello campaign that we did for Milwaukee, and I wound up doing it, maybe for 30 or 40 of the cities that went with the campaign. But at the same time, I was working with a fabulous female singer by the name of Florence Warner, and started using Florence Warner to do a female version of it, and her version was really, head and shoulders above mine, and really kind of, made the song as popular as it became. She had this wonderful way of delivering a lyric and melody that was really outstanding.
It seems like there were a lot of towns, say Calgary, that really took the song home and tried to make it into more than just an image campaign, almost like it was a town anthem.
If you're taking a cab ride and you ask the cabbie about Hello Calgary, he'll start singing it to you. It really became their anthem. And I believe that Calgary was the city that really used the campaign the best. They used it everywhere.
There's a feeling in the air that you can't get anywhere except in Calgary. I taste 1,000 yesterdays and I love the magic ways of Calgary. From the mountains
Calgary's known for their yearly Calgary Stampede, and at night, they had hundreds of thousands of people that would come there for the Stampede, and at night they would have this huge performance with performers, dancers, singers, musicians, and I remember they had probably 100 dancers and singers on stage singing to an audience of about 50,000, singing Hello Calgary and dancing. It was fantastic. They had billboards everywhere, and they also did a very, very special thing. They got these 2 semi trucks and filled the trucks with medical equipment, and the trucks drove around to communities and neighborhoods where people couldn't get to go to a hospital. And sure enough, on the side of the truck it said "Hello Calgary." So they were really promoting it. They also made Hello Calgary pins. Pins seem to be very popular in Calgary. Mm-hmm. And they sold these pins for, I think it was $1 a piece at all of the checkout counters. And with all the money, I think they raised $1 million or so, if not more. With all the money they raised, they gave to charity. And they just did a fantastic job. We did a country version for them. We did so many versions, and as well, the Hello News package was also created utilizing the melody of the Hello song, and they were using that as well, and that was successful. So it was they really embraced the community. The community of Calgary was building up from a small town to a very sophisticated city. I remember when I flew into Calgary, they were greeting all the passengers. We were going to the Calgary Stampede, and they were greeting all the passengers in the airport with a band singing Hello Calgary, and they were giving out Hello Calgary cowboy hats. They really, really did a number on it.
So besides the Hello campaign, what are some of your other favorites?
Well, the next campaign that we did is really a favorite of mine, and again, I was the male singer on the first version, was Stand Up and Tell 'Em You're From Detroit. We got a call again from Jerry Smith, who was again doing a image campaign, getting ready to do an image campaign for WXYZ in Detroit, and saying that the city was really going through very, very difficult times, and wanted to try to turn things around and create an image campaign that got people to, not take things so serious. This is a great town. We're going to turn things around. It was really down on itself. About 2,000 people had lost their jobs on the assembly line. They didn't know, if they were going to make it, they could pay their mortgages, feed their families. And this image campaign was just, it was just the ticket. And again, Channel 7, XYZ in Detroit really did a great job promoting it.
Now, on the right track now, stand up and tell them you're from Detroit. We build it better right here in Detroit. Working together, we're making it in Detroit. It's time to shout it, no doubt about it. Stand up and tell them you're from Detroit. You've got the spirit, tell them you're from Detroit. Come on, let's
we wound up doing many versions. It lasted, they ran it pretty aggressively for about the first 5 years, and it became the anthem, if you will, of Detroit at that time.
And this leads to today, where we have something like This Is Home, which is part of your collection that's now at Warner Chappell Production Music, that has over 12 different versions and is being used at many stations.
This is
This is home, this is home, this is where my heart lives, this is home.
Let's go! It's a big world, and now we're loving this town. It's our turn, so put your hands up. This is home!
Yeah, the image campaign for quite a while, for quite a few years, kind of, was sitting on the shelf. Stations were not doing it. They were not putting out image campaigns. They were basically really developing their news product, their news programs, and they weren't eating up their airtime with image campaigns. And they kind of, as I said, sat on the shelf for quite a few years. So, get this idea that, I want to bring this image campaign back. I really think that it still has legs. And created a song called This Is Home with two very dear friends of mine, Martin Briley and Dana Calitri, and who are also the original singers on the original version of the piece. And we presented it to the Gannett group of stations. They absolutely loved it, and we wound up doing, I think initially we wound up doing the one version, then it kind of led into, I don't know, I think we have 12 or more versions going now so they could use for different situations. Became, hugely successful again among the communities. I think they ran in about maybe 60 or 70 communities, and it just tugged at the heartstrings of the people in the communities, telling them that this is a great place to live, and tapped into that civic pride. The "This is home" for Gannett kind of brought it forward again. I really think that more than ever, America and Americans, as I said, yearn for this civic pride. I mean, you see it everywhere. The cities, the restoration of cities, and the communities, all across the country show, the people are proud of where they're from and the lives that they've chosen to lead. With the other, with the Hello campaign and other campaigns like it, I mean, TV stations can really associate themselves with the proud people and tap into the positive energy that I think that's is going on. Never before, by the way, never before in the history of advertising, so many advertisers and their clients, using music from the 70s and 80s to promote their products. I mean, you hear it everywhere. Successful image campaigns are the ones that, they have the right message and the right emotional message. And by the way, research shows that, with the tremendous boom of information outlets, stations that are successfully able to transmit a community image, will be the stations that will have local news viewers. And let's face it, I mean, news is a television station's most important business. The very key elements and components that made Hello a huge success in the 80s, will make it a huge success today. So I think image campaigns are coming back, and I'm glad to see it.
Do you think an updated version of Hello will ever reappear on the airwaves in Calgary or anywhere else?
Oh, that would be great. That would be great, or, what's the next Hello? What's the next campaign, But I'd love to be doing some more Hello versions. I think there's a lot of potential still there.
So your work on image campaigns wasn't just at the local level. You did a lot of work at the national level too for ABC, HBO. Talk a little bit about that work.
The image campaign wasn't being exclusively done for the local television stations. The networks were also doing image campaigns of a different kind, but they definitely were image. And what they were doing was they were promoting the brand new shows that were coming up, and every September they would kick it off with a great image campaign, and we did I think we did 5 years in a row for the ABC network.
Now is the time. ABC is the place. It's all right here on
starting in 1981 with Now Is the Time, ABC Is the Place. That was their theme to kick off their 1981 and the 1982 season. And it was great. We had the opportunity to write a longer piece. They wanted at least a 2.5-minute song, and then they extracted, and we extracted out of it, the 60s and the 30s that became the workhorse pieces. But the main piece was always about 2.5 minutes long. And interesting story on the first campaign. I was working for Channel 5 in Cleveland, the ABC, WEWS in Cleveland, and they were talking about how the network was getting ready to choose the song for the 1981 campain, and I said, "Oh God, I wish we would have had a chance to, throw our hat in the arena." And I said, "Who's in charge?" And they said that it was Harry Marks who was doing all of the animation for the ABC network, and he was in charge of the image campaign. But they were choosing the song on Monday, and this was a Friday. And I said, "Oh God, can I get in touch with him?" Anyway, they gave me his number, and I called Harry, and I said, "Harry, I sure would love a shot at sending in a demo at least." And he said, "Oh, it's too late. We're choosing it on Monday." And I said, "Well, what's the slogan?" And he said, "Now is the time, ABC is the place." And so anyway, I immediately got off the phone, started writing, and called my writing buddy, Artie Schreck, and wrote this demo, Now Is the Time, ABC is the Place. Went into the recording studio on Saturday and worked literally until about, from about 6 o'clock at night till 4 in the morning, putting this demo together, and it turned out absolutely fantastic. Sent it in overnight courier, and got a call back on Monday, and Harry Marks was just absolutely flipped over it, and it wound up getting the piece, being the piece that they chose to use, and that was the start of a 5-year run of ABC image campaigns that I did for the network.
It's that special time, yours and mine, as close as we can be. It's that special feeling for you and me, that special feeling on ABC.
We're with you on ABC, with you. We're with you on ABC. We're with you on ABC. Home at last, snap on the TV. Me and my baby got the stars in our eyes. Gonna let the magic come and carry us away and get a big surprise. There's always something good to see on ABC. You love it, just you and me. You love it on ABC.
I did quite a few for HBO. One that really sticks out is the Bring It Home Tonight was their slogan, Bring It Home Tonight. And we used Valerie Simpson from Ashford and Simpson and as the soloist. And that was a big fall image campaign hit. We also did some things for NBC, The Place to Be, and so we've done quite a bit of network image campaign.
Looking back, there was a time in some of these markets where Fox, NBC, CBS, ABC, they were all using Gari music. What does that mean from a branding standpoint and from your career?
Yeah, we've been blessed to, in many cities do all three of the stations, ABC, NBC, and CBS. And they're all quite different and unique, and we try to keep it that way.
So you're enjoying retirement. So what's your next act?
I'm not quite sure. I'm sure that music will definitely be, in the picture.
Well, Frank, thanks for taking the time to talk with us today. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I just wish we could get back to utilizing real musicians, and the budgets warranted the use of real live musicians. As I said, I mean, you can't beat the real thing. I mean, there's a sound, there's a richness to a live orchestra and a real recording studio. Nowadays, as we talked about, the music is done electronically out of not necessarily a sophisticated recording studio. In many cases, it's done in the backyard studio. And the quality suffers. I think that the electronic sound has a very thin, strident, edgy feel to it, as opposed to the rich sounds of the real musicians.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Production Music Podcast. I've been your host, Dak Dillon, Managing Editor of NewscastStudio. You can always follow us on Twitter at NewscastStudio and at Dak Dillon. Stay tuned for more episodes of the Production Music Podcast, where we review the latest releases in music, talk with some of the creators, and go behind the scenes on what's coming down the pipeline. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher, and of course on our website at newscaststudio.com/podcast. If you've enjoyed today's show, we encourage you to rate us and leave a review. Thanks, and have a great day. Today's Production Music Podcast has been made possible by the folks at Avid. For more information, visit avidconnect2017.com. The Production Music Podcast is copyright Newscast Studio 2017, all rights reserved. For more information, visit newscaststudio.com.